Hey guys, Mitchell Gonzalez, the bearded realtor here with my buddy Anthony Meisner, also known as the bearded title rep. That's only like 2 days worth of growth. He's doing great. But hey, are you guys curious as to what's happening at the Denver real estate market? Well, you're in luck. Today we are going to do a full market recap on exactly what's happening in the Denver real estate market. So let's hang out. So
What about playoff football? First of all, let's take a break from this because I think we need your sports update. And there was some hilarious stuff this week.
my sports update. Well, first of all, this was supposed to be the best weekend for football, and the games were a joke. But at least the Cowboys did not disappoint us. They lost in typical Cowboy fashion with Ezekiel Elliott as playing as center. Yeah, let's take our best player and have him take him out of the play. That he got blown up, so that was pretty awesome.
Well, that was fun to watch. There's no doubt. But it went exactly the way we would have expected in that game.
Yeah, but without the sports update, hey, you guys, if you haven't seen one of my videos before in the past, make sure that you click the subscribe button below, okay? And as much as I love making these videos, I love helping people find their dream homes even more. So if you guys have any questions about real estate, make sure you call, email me. I'm available 24/7 to answer any questions. But with that being said, Anthony and I could sit here and talk about YouTube and sports all day long. You guys want to know what is happening with the Denver real estate market.
All right, let's get right into it. This is really important to understand is in 2022, we had a booming real estate market for about 4 months, right? 5 months.
Yeah.
May had the peak of our under contracts and the peak of our solds. We had 3% interest rates going into the year. And then by October, we had 7% interest rates and 30% of our market stopped operating because, well, when the cost of buying goes from $3,000 to $5,000 as your monthly payment, it makes it just a little bit hard to transact, right?
Yeah.
So that being said,
I don't think anyone could have seen them going from 3 to 7% as quickly as they did. I think people thought that they'd maybe go from like 3 to 5 or so, but
for sure,
it was fast.
I mean, I think 9.5% in inflation for that 1 month like scared people so bad they were just like, crank the screws down. This is not going to be the 80s again. We'll just all suffer for a short period of time instead of a decade.
9.5. That would be like a good 2 years. Sometimes I saw it in a month.
Oh man,
Good time to be a seller back then.
So that being said, right, like we had the most incredible spring you could have ever felt, and then that was coupled by the worst fall real estate market as far as total numbers of sales that we've had since 2012, right? Like, I mean, this is basically since the bottom of the last big recession. And so we have had rising inventory through the year. People started pulling stuff off in the fall. You can see that in the green line here. November, December, I mean, people literally were so frustrated that their houses weren't selling or they didn't sell for the price they wanted, and they just started backing off. You know what? Regroup in 2023. So that being said, expect a rising inventory going into next year for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I mean, I think we definitely need some more inventory, and I think interest rates hopefully go down a little bit, and we'll see more stable market. I think hopefully. So
absolutely, I think so too. This slide is specifically on inventory, so I moved over here for you.
Okay.
Well, this one basically we have 4,400 homes on the market in the Denver metro area. Just kind of put that in perspective. The inventory shortage is real, right? And it's really bad. So that being said, we could be at 20, 25,000 units to be in a balanced market in Denver metro. We're at 4,400 units. Is it as extreme as last year, the year before? Absolutely not. But we're still in a place where this is an awesome time to sell houses. And as a buyer, you kind of want to take advantage of this as, you know, there's not as many buyers in the marketplace. You're going to see a little bit less appreciation than we've seen in years past, because I really, truly think in 2025, we're going to be back in a horrible inventory shortage. Yeah. If interest rates come down like people think and buyers re-enter the marketplace, I mean, we're both millennials. The millennial home buyer is like, so, I mean, there's so many millennials, right? And Denver's an awesome market for millennials. So you just see so many people moving to this area that we don't build enough homes. It's just going to get worse until they address the building issue.
Well, I really like you pointing out that right now is still a great time to buy too, because even though there is an inventory shortage, there's also a shortage of buyers out there right now. I think especially our generation, like we're used to the 3% interest rate, which if you owned a home more than 10 years, you know that is most certainly not normal. So the shortage of buyers kind of creates an interesting dynamic where you can get a home a little cheaper, and then when interest rates do drop, then refinance.
That's right. I agree. And this is exactly why. So even though we have that shortage of inventory, we have a shortage of buyers. We're sitting at like, 1.1 months of inventory. There's just not a lot. I mean, it's like basically 5 weeks worth of homes if nothing else comes on the market.
Yeah.
That being said, here's what's going to happen with our buyers in the springtime. This is the pace of the market. So our days in MLS really talks about how long does it take for a home to go under contract. You can see back at the peak of the market last year, we're at like 8.5 days. We're at 41 days right now. It's going to go up probably just a little bit into January, and then here it's going to come down, crashing hard, right? Which is good. It just means that there's more buyers entering the marketplace. If you want to take advantage of like the time where you could get a deal, December, January, even last November was really good. You could probably still get a deal going into the next couple of months before tons of buyers, tons of sellers are back in the marketplace. Interest rates are expected to get better. They've gotten a lot better this year already, just in the 3 weeks we've been working in January. So it's a good sign. I mean, expect that we have a faster and faster market, the more buyers that re-enter.
Yeah, especially with interest rates going down. I know we have our cheesy saying in real estate, marry the house, but date the rate. Because when you buy the home, you can get a home at the cheaper price now since, there's less buyers on the market. Once interest rates do go down, there's going to be more buyers entering the market, which is going to drive up the price, drive up those bidding wars again. So if you're thinking about buying, I mean, it seems like even though inventory is low, still a good time.
Still a really good time. Yeah. And then all you have to worry about mostly, I think, as a buyer is as long as you can qualify for those higher payments, you're only in there for a short period of time, right? Yeah. Short-term pain for actually like probably a lot of appreciation over the next couple of years. And if you refi, at the end of the year this year and you buy now, you could be a half a point less on your rate. It could be $0 out of pocket and you actually made $30,000 in the process or something, right? Like that's a really common situation.
Yeah. Good situation to have.
No question there. All right, let's look a little bit by price point here. We have a couple of slides by price point. It just kind of shows you the bulk of the market and what's moving. Over the course of 2022, you saw sales really decrease through the bottom price points, right? So if you look over Mitchell's shoulder there, you can see all the little tiny numbers, but lots of negatives in total sales. The farther down the ladder it was, like those $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 houses, they really suffer from buyers not being able to afford the payment shift, right? So we had less and less sales there than we've seen in years past, but the higher end of the market really has done remarkably well because Colorado is so desirable. We have a lot of outside money coming in for those luxury price points. And then you get into that, like 800 to a million or 1 to 1.5 million range. Jumbo money's been cheap, right? Or I say cheap, but it's been a whole lot cheaper. And usually it's not cheaper than like a conventional rate. So this is an interesting time.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And then this is the second one. This would be our month supply of inventory and days on market by price range. I think it's important to use this to understand, like, okay, if I'm buying a $400,000 to $499,000 house, what's my situation, right?
Yeah.
And you can kind of gauge your competition, which it looks like for that price range, we're talking about 0.9 months of inventory, so basically 4 weeks of inventory is on the market, right? That means if nothing else comes on the market, you have 4 weeks of homes before they're all sold, right? I mean, that's nothing. This is a huge seller's market. But if you're a buyer and you want to get into that, you just got to understand, on average, they go under contract in 41 days. So you have a while to look, but we also need to be very proactive about, the inventory is turning over pretty rapidly still. Then you go into like a 1 to 2 million range, you get 3 months of inventory, right? So they're very dramatically different. Outside of the payment issue, if you wanted to do a trade up, right now is a really good time to do trade ups because you could sell at a lower price range, buy at a higher price point. There's less competition at the higher price ranges, right?
Yeah.
But there is also, that cost of money issue that we have to address. So you can definitely win on the sell side. It just really requires, what are we getting into on the buy side? All right, so you want to talk about just number of solds in the marketplace and what we're expecting?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. In the last few months, with interest rates being at the highest we've seen in a long time, we've seen about a 30% reduction in total solds. That's largely due to just the fact that the cost of money is expensive, buyer uncertainty, economic uncertainty. People are kind of stepping away from the market. I really don't expect that that's going to continue too much into the next year. But you have to remember, we had a gangbusters first 4 or 5 months. So the first 4 or 5 months are going to show about the same reduction, 30% or so. That doesn't, 30% sounds terrible, right? Like that market sounds awful. Realistically, these are like 2018 sales numbers.
Yeah.
So it's just about getting our frame of reference back to pre-COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people bought and sold real estate during COVID because, well, they needed a second home office, right? I mean, think about how much of the workforce works from home now that didn't before. So
definitely discovered how much easier it is to work from home.
yeah, that and I mean, think about all the
sometimes-
divorces that took place during COVID because it's really difficult to live with somebody.
Even temporary boost in real estate.
Yeah, exactly. So that 2020, 2021 numbers are just false numbers. That's not what the market traditionally is doing. We're kind of getting back to those core numbers. Expect for the first 3 months we slow down a little bit, but then we really see some robust, solid market numbers that are going to be, maybe the slowest market we see in a while. And then towards the last half of the year is really going to be comparable to what we've been seeing.
The start of last year is just an anomaly. I mean, and really not healthy for our market. Yeah, it's great if you're selling and not buying, and you can all of a sudden have 15% appreciation in 6 months. But what are you going to do when you go buy? You're going to go into the same bidding wars, and that's not a healthy, certainly not a balanced market, which is what we would like to get back to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be really helpful to put buyers and sellers on even footing again in Colorado, and we just are not going to see that anytime soon. This is the appreciation rate, right? You want to talk a lot about this, but I think if you're a buyer, this is the best way to put this. Anytime you bought real estate in the last decade, outside of April of last year, was probably a really amazing investment. And if you bought April of last year, time will obviously make you a good investor if you just wait, right? I mean, this is a decade of appreciation. We went from, what is that, like $300,000 average sales price up to a $700,000 average sales price. So
in 10 years.
I think real estate is the best equity that all of us have. I mean, very few people actually have more money than that invested somewhere else at this point. But if you own a house, you got a ton of equity. It's been awesome.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're talking about this too, because that's why I typically like telling people is they ask, hey, how's the market going to appreciate? I say, if you're going to look at trying to make money in a year or two, there's a chance you could time it perfectly and would have sold last spring and made some money. But, odds are you could make a little bit of money in a couple of years. But if you hold real estate long term, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, you're going to make money on real estate no matter what happens in the market. Like if you bought in 2007 and then the market tanked in 2008, guess what? 2017, you were still in a pretty good shape. So,
even by 2012, everyone was pretty much back to even usually. So it's been a really good run. Obviously, this has been like probably the most amazing decade in real estate appreciation in the history of this country. But we also have a housing shortage we didn't address, right? We had bad lending that got us into this situation. Everyone tightened the screws, and then everyone stopped building as much, right? And then you have all of us that have aged up, and now you have way too many people that need houses and not enough of them. And it's Colorado, right? Who doesn't want to live here?
Everyone wants to live here.
That's right.
That's why you're watching this video.
Exactly. All right, last slide that I wanted to talk about. This is like about bidding wars and just kind of the anomalies in the marketplace. You could see we went so high over asking price in the last spring. That's these big humps, right? The last 2 years, it's just been no inventory, tight situations. Buyers have experienced just throwing everything they've gotten at it and hope to God it sticks. Mitchell and I are standing in my house. I went through this in the same period. And it was ridiculous what it took just to get another house. You win when you sell, but you also lose when you buy, and it's kind of a wash, right? So now we're back into a market that's much more reasonable. If you wanted a deal, I've been saying this for a while, these were about the best numbers we've seen since 2012, where you could actually go out and, get some concessions from the seller, right? That they might help you buy your interest rate down a little bit or whatever. And that's not just going to last forever, right? By February of next month, I really think that that's probably going to go away for the short term in the spring market. Come maybe July or into fall next year again, we might see some of that, but it really just depends on how much rates come down and how many more people can get back into buying real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
well, you're up, Mitchell. What's going on?
Well, so now we're going to do our forecast for you guys. So we just threw a lot of numbers, stats that you guys are probably wondering, what does that mean? Should I buy? Should I sell? And what I think is we're kind of seeing happen right now, and I don't know if Anthony agrees with me, he might go and say the exact opposite thing that I say right now. So, but really last year was probably one of the more unpredictable, crazier years in real estate that we've ever seen. We literally went from going to like 15-20% appreciation, like Anthony was just talking about. Like if you're talking to a buyer, the conversation wasn't, can we get this house? The conversation was, how much above asking do we have to go to get this house? Is it 10? Is it 15? Is it 20% above asking? Do I have to offer my firstborn kid? Like, what do you got to do to get this house?
You want a kidney?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. you know, Oregon's out. What do you need? Like, right? That's basically what it was like for the first 6 months. And then like that, interest rates went from the threes to almost 7, and basically all the buyers came out of the market. So we went from just this crazy demand to the market almost freezing. But I think what we'll kind of see is people realizing that 3% interest rate is not the norm. Like,
Well,
what we're going to
also,
see.
you're just not
Yeah.
going to see it again for
Yeah.
quite some time.
Yeah.
A 3% interest rate means that we're in a really unhealthy economy that needs help, right? Which we hopefully don't have to have again for a while.
And we probably left them in the threes like way too long. Well, we didn't. We have no control over interest rates. If we did, we'd both have a 0 interest rate on our house. But I think, yeah, they were left in the threes too long. So I think buyers will realize, okay, hey, 5 to 6, that's still a good interest rate. And we'll start seeing the market even out a little bit. I think we'll start seeing more of a, 4 or 5% appreciation year over year instead of the double digit that we've been seeing year over year, which is going to create a much more sustainable market for Colorado, for Denver as a whole.
In the next couple of years, I think that's absolutely accurate. We've historically seen 5 to 6% in Colorado year over year, kind of on average over the decades. Some years are closer to 0 and some years are closer to 10%. This is totally the anomaly, like you said, right? So I'm 100% on board. I think we're going to see 4 or 5% on our appreciation over the next year, which as a buyer, honestly, you should really jump in sooner than later because most of that appreciation takes place in the springtime.
Yeah. So what we're trying to say right now, even though it might seem scary, still a great time to buy. If you're thinking about selling, still a great time to sell. So it's one of those weird markets.
Yeah, it's super weird. I almost never am like, this is an awesome time to sell your house. Also, you really need to buy right now because if you don't buy right now, you're going to lose out on some of the benefits to buying in a really slow market where people are, taking their foot off the gas for a while.
Yeah.
And honestly, rents are just going to go up. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the one thing that lags behind a little bit as these mortgage rates have really come up. If anyone wants to purchase in, it's a little bit more expensive, but honestly, you're going to suffer in the rental market as well. And over the next couple of years, we're really going to see those rents rise in the same fashion.
Well, and if you guys think a 7% interest rate is high on a mortgage, you should know that right now current interest rates on rentals are at 100% and they're not projected to go down. So if you're currently renting, I don't want to hear the interest rates are too high because it's going to be way lower than what you're paying right now on your rental.
What a great step.
So with that being said, you guys, thanks for checking out this video. Hopefully you learned something new about the market, what's happening. If you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you click the subscribe button below. Make sure you click likes, that way you get a notification every time I post a video, as I post weekly content all about what it's like living in Denver. If you have any other additional questions about the real estate market, make sure that you call, email me. I'm available 24/7 to answer any questions. So you guys, thanks for coming. Mitchell Gonzalez, Bearded Realtor, Anthony Meisner, Bearded Title Rep, signing off.
See you next time.